The title of this mini clinic is, of course, in the shine there. It is a mini clinic. It's only got a handful of slides because I'm not ready at this point in time to show you anything I've accomplished with the build other than to tell you how I'm going to go about doing it. The station itself is just absolutely a beautiful rendition of what Jim Hill did on the Great Northern build through the Glacier National Park area. It is very Swiss in nature in the sense that it's stucco and board with the big high roofs and the gables and all of that kind of stuff. And it has been preserved precisely by the museums in the area and everything else, and it goes through lots of maintenance to keep it going and keep it alive and all the rest of the stuff. But any of you who ever have been to Whitefish, Montana, will have seen this town landmark, if you want to call it that. I'm showing here the Bruce DeMaeyer created CAD drawings that are at 1-to-1 scale in the drawings, which means it is exactly exactly reproducible at a drawing standpoint. So the drawing becomes almost exactly what is going to be built. And that, very interestingly enough, makes it very nice to be able to use the CAD drawings as a base. But if you'll notice in there, there's just millions, quote unquote, of windows and board positions and stucco sections and all of that kind of stuff with weird gables and all the rest of the stuff around. And it's going to be really quite an experience to do this. And so I wanted to share with you guys what I was really thinking about doing from a getting started standpoint, because the whole key to success here is how real does the exterior look compared to the prototype. This is one of the pictures that I've got that were taken by me when I was on one of my rail fanning trips out west. This is the Whitefish station, and this is the view that's from the street. Okay. There is another view that's from Trackside. This is the view. Notice the three-dimensional aspect of the here. This is a build out that's about 3 feet out here, and this roof structure comes down about 3 feet at the angle and angles back up with all of these wooden details that are in it and everything else. I mean, it is really going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be really exciting to build it. I'm really looking forward to it. There's the mass of what's alongside the track side view of the station. It is an active station. It is a very large Amtrak boarding and deboarding process. They run a lot of passengers in and out of Amtrak from Whitefish. In the wintertime, it's a very large ski area, and many people ride the trains from the east to go skiing on the mountains, the mountainside in Whitefish. But other than that, it's a direct access to Glacier National Park. And so it's got all of those things from a passenger standpoint. So it is important to think about this as, how do you reproduce this in its exact form? Look at the windows again. Look at the stucco pieces. These are the boards. All of the stuff behind it is stuccoed, and it has been painted 2 or 3 times. And over the years, they have modified the color of the boards, but not the stucco. And at one point in time, this was more of a gray colored. And then below in here, this is all board sheeting in here and down here. And then all the different kinds of doors for being able to take baggage out and all of those kind of things are all traditionally shown here. The east side of the depot is shows you that huge amount of cantilevering decking for the roof that's over the top and the corbels that hold them. Notice those, there's a very good example of one of the corbels. And that same corbel is reproduced here, 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 and over on the other side, and provide a degree of support for the roof. As you well know, out west in the Montana area, snow is an issue, and you want to make sure you don't have to carry too much snow load on any of your buildings, and that's why these large peaked roofs exist. I guess would not be unusual at all for there to be a snow run that drops down into the walk area in here. The the west side of the depot is harder to get pictures of because of the complication of the addition of a baggage section in here that was built later. And that's where, when you get off of the westbound Amtrak, your baggage will be taken off and stuck inside of here. The baggage from passengers would come out here and be stored here temporarily while they're waiting for the train to come in. Okay, here's an example of the technical drawing detail, the CAD drawing detail for the windows. And for the very first time, I am going to build my windows and doors from my CAD drawings themselves. In the past, the CAD drawings were used to put pieces of wood into the sections and made into a window. And you'll notice that most of the windows are 3x4 or 2x6 or some other number like that. And that's really, really hard to do, because the mullions in reality, or if that's what they're called, are way less than a 32nd of an inch, probably more like a 64th of an inch or closer to 128th inch. And you just can't get wood to behave like that. So it always looks kind of funny when you're looking at an end scale window in any structure. The way I'm going to do this is I have the drawings on CAD, and they're in black and white, as you see here. This would be printed on white paper for this example. But in my real world window, I could also print this on a sheet of clear plastic. Not unlike what we all used to do many years ago with the idea, when you created a view graph. Remember those view graphs, guys? They were pieces of plastic that got printed by the printer, and it made then you projected it onto a screen and it did what you wanted it to do. But in my case, that allows light to go through the window because it's printed on plastic. Now, how do I get that window then to the point where it is thick enough to be able to be represented as a window? I'm going to take that piece of plastic, printed plastic, and I'm going to laminate it with my laminator to another double sheet of plastic, one on one side and one on the other. And I'm going to do that for all of the windows. Now, you'll notice that I have a compilation of the total number of windows down near the bottom, the south side of the building, the north side of the building, west side of the building, east side of the building. So on the upper left-hand corner, that window, there are 44 of them in the building. The second one from the upper right, upper left, there's 33 of those kinds of windows. And from there, it kind of goes down in magnitude to twosies, foursies, onesies, and so on, with doors and things of that nature. But I'm gonna do the same kind of thing for all of them, but the doors. My idea only works for the windows. The doors are going to be done on white paper, which means they won't pass light as well. So that's okay. The doors normally wouldn't pass any light anyway, except for the window sections. So this is the result of a whole year's worth of time thinking about this while I was recovering from my infamous year of 2022, with lots of time to be thinking about how I wanted to do things. And I came up with this idea. So I have never seen this done by anybody else. So this may be a kind of a breakthrough concept. Here's an example, way out of scale, but it gives you a feel for what I'm talking about. You'll notice the horizontal and vertical drawing showing the ladding, the solid boards across the bottom right here. Okay, at this point, that's just going to be strip basswood that goes across here. Okay, and this over here is going to be strip basswood in here. But here is where the problem is. Okay, I have all of these little boards here, all like here, and all of these. Okay, the thickness of that board is such that I can't buy it from Northeast. I'd have to cut each and every one of those boards to a precise size, not to define anything about it being a hell of a lot of work. And so I am planning to do this with cardstock. So these pieces here that you see going up and the pieces going across here and so on is cardstock, which I will be able to purchase pre-colored to what I want it to be, which will be some sort of a form of brown in color. And then I'm going to glue that to the substrate behind it. So what does the big substrate of all of this consist of? You know, I'm a strong believer in basswood sheeting in the construction of the frame of the building. And I have a choice of using 1/32 or 1/16 inch basswood sheets to create the structure, if you would, of the side of the building. And then the next step would be to cut the holes in that for the windows and doors. And then the next step after that would be, well, wouldn't you know it? The next step after that would be to attach the boards to the stucco, which is just going to be sheet styrene. And then the top of that is the cardstock. So there'll be 3 layers of wall. A basswood sheet wall that is basically the strength of the building, cut out with the windows. And then the next step is stripped, really thin strip styrene, which is going to represent the stucco. And the stucco is where these dotted lines are in here, for example. And then on top of that is the cardstock that goes here, goes across here, and all the rest of the stuff. Okay, so that's an example of what I'm going to do with the walls. Okay, so this is a review of the base walls. The base walls will be built with probably 1/16 inch basswood for strength. And it will be reinforced on the interior of the wall with corners and tops and everything else to keep everything totally square as the building is being built. The building and end scale will be about 15 inches long and about somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 inches wide, to give you a feel for how big this is going to be in end scale. The stucco walls are going to be created by attaching then a solid section of very thin white styrene to the 1/16 inch wall frame. And I've done that before. My firehouse used that technique of adding sheathing, if you want to call it, using styrene attached to the wall frame. The boards are going to be cut out of cardstock. And this is a little dicey, okay? And I need to make sure I know how I'm doing the cutting on this to make sure that there aren't problems that are created over time after it's been built. But the cardstock are dimensionally deeper than the stucco fill. And that gives you the three-dimensional view of what's necessary to make this thing really look prototype. The stucco is behind the front piece of the boards. And that's very typical in Alpine style of construction, okay? So I need to have that three-dimensionality to show what that's really kind of looking at. I believe the cardstock alternative is a better alternative than basswood strips, which I could use. I can't get anything thinner than a 32nd of an inch strip. I could create it smaller by sanding it, but all of those things just end up being very problematic. Cardstock gives me better control of board color. I can choose just about any color I want. And I'm going to try using a paper cutter as my source there. That, you guys have all seen those. And I don't know how this is going to work, okay? If this causes the cardstock to curl or to be, you know, not flat after the cut, then I will go back to the traditional razor cutting with a razor and a straight edge and some kind of a device, some kind of a device to make it work perfectly. Okay, I haven't tried that yet. Okay, so here's another example of one of the little sections in bigger detail, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Oh, I didn't intend to do that. There we go. There's the stucco in the second section of the wood thing. Remember, there's a piece of 1/32 inch plywood in the back of all of this. And then there's the and then there's the windows. The windows will be cut in shape, in size, and then these will be thicknesses, three-dimensional. That will be the dimension will be 3 pieces of plastic. I would guess that's going to come out to be somewhere around a 64th of an inch, something like that. But it's going to be three-dimensional because remember, there's the center section, which is actually the mullions, and then there's 2 outside sections, which is the laminating process that I'll use to cover the whole thing. Okay, I spent a little bit of time talking about the paper cutter, so I won't go very much more on that. And kick it all back to you guys about questions that you have about what I'm proposing to do.